All right, good morning. Welcome to our session on affective engagement. I know you heard a little bit about the importance of sense of belonging and kids getting, having school identification this morning from Dr. Laura Brown. And we're going to go into that more in-depthly. And we're going to look at affective engagement and its impact on student performance. And then we're going to give you some strategies and interventions that have worked, at North Gwinnett High School and in some other schools where we have done some work. And hopefully these will be some things that you can put in place, for your underperforming subgroup. I want to go ahead and introduce myself. My name's Jennifer Leahy, and I have with me Fran Bay and Laura Sarton, who also worked with the Georgia SPDIG project. And then we have Jennifer Krotz, who is from North Gwinnett High School, who will be sharing some specific interventions and strategies that they put in place. I also want to draw your attention to this affective engagement strategies handout. We're going to kind of chunk our session into student-to-school strategies, student-to-student strategies. And so I just want you to have here, we'll ask you along the way to kind of think about what you already have in place. And if there's some things that we suggest or that we present that you might be interested in trying. And this is just a place for you to make some notations. And with that said, we will begin. All right, as we begin, I want you to think about the students in your school and those students with whom you already have a relationship. And think about the kids, maybe that you don't know as well. Is there another adult in the building that does have a relationship with those students? Are there students on your radar who are not on your radar screen that should be? And there is a principal of a large high school, as I know many of you are from the metro area and are likely in large schools. And this principal was concerned with these issues of student relationships and sense of belonging. And so he said to his faculty, I'm going to put the names of all the students in our school on the cafeteria walls. And he gave his faculty members those little sticky dots, the little adhesive ones. And he said, I want you to go ahead and put a sticky dot next to the name of every student that you feel that you have a relationship with whom you're connected. And so the teachers proceeded to do this. And at the end of the exercise, many students had multiple dots by their names. But then there were some students that had not a single dot next to their name, meaning not a single student, not a single adult in that school felt they really knew that student. So when we're talking about our underperforming subgroups, or students with disabilities, perhaps kids who are not connected, those are the ones we're looking for, and we're hoping that our affective engagement strategies that we offer today will be beneficial for those students in your schools.
Today we're going to be talking about some learning targets, and we have 3 that we'll be focusing on. First of all, we want to understand affective engagement and its impact on school performance. Next, we will be identifying evidence-based strategies and activities that support effective engagement. And again, as we go along, anything that you hear that you're already using or you think you might use, write it down. We also want to remind you that these are strategies that we have found successful. They may not be for you. You may have already tried them and they didn't work. And you may want to share some of the obstacles that you found along the way, some remediations of these strategies if they didn't work, what you could do differently. We also finally are going to talk about evidence-based strategies that you can implement with your targeted students. And I think Karen spoke a little about that. Laura Brown spoke a little bit about that. Your targeted students will be those students that you want to look at the evidence-based strategies. After you look at your data, when you write your action plan, you will write that action plan based on your targeted students. So be thinking about this as we go along. Okay, the first learning target we're going to talk about today is just understanding affective engagement and its impact on school performance.
Okay, you have a handout that was in your folder in the left pocket, and Laura already asked you to look at it before in the big session. But if you turn to the second page, at section Roman numeral 3, at the top of the second page, it says affective engagement. There you're going to see a lot of terms, and here are some of those terms as well. The research on affective engagement, if you were to Google affective engagement, it might come up a different term. It might say psychological engagement. And that was the term that was used quite a bit early on in the research, but they found that that term psychological scared a lot of people, so they changed it to affective engagement. But if you did any search for it on the internet, you might find that. The research that we based our project on was from Sandra Christensen at the University of Minnesota, and we use her entire theoretical model of engagement, the different types that you're going to be circulating around today and tomorrow. So if anybody wanted to look it up, that's the citation up there, Christensen et al., 2008, for those of you who like to look up research and stuff like that. Okay. But in the literature, it's called all those different names, but what it really means is, I'm a student at a school. Do I feel like I'm a member of that school community? If my school mascot are the Knights, do I feel like I'm a Knight? Do I feel like I'm a red elephant, like Laura said? I haven't heard that one. Do I feel like I'm a bulldog? Do I feel like I'm a tiger? Whatever your mascot is, do I feel like I am that? In many situations, our underperforming students don't have that sense of, I am a knight, and they just don't seem to care about being a knight, or that's what it seems on the surface. And we really are trying to build some connections because, as Laura pointed out in the big session, we have found that we can do all these interventions for academics and all these interventions for attendance and all these interventions for behavior, but if we don't address that sense of connectedness to school, some of that stuff won't stick, or it won't be as effective as it could be if we paired it with the relationship components. Impact of affective engagement, again, based on the research that has been compiled, and they did a lot of studies, and whatever the name they use, they all compiled it under these massive studies of this is what they have found, the different researchers. And the compilation study is the one that's cited there. And you can see that if you will address affective engagement and help a student feel connected to school, it's going to help with the behavioral part, it's going to help with the attendance part, and it's going to help with their feeling of persistence in school. And what it's going to do is it's going to help everything else you're doing. It's going to underpin all of those efforts, okay? So you're the first group to come, your first session being affective, and when you go to the other sessions, you'll be able to see how this would really, if this were the underpinning, it would help everything else you're doing in the other areas. So our first learning target was to take a look at what affective engagement meant, and I gave you some research citations for those of you who want that. But our next learning target is to identify some evidence-based strategies. You can talk about the research and you can talk about the findings, but actually, what can you actually do regarding affective engagement? So there have been some lessons learned from the research, and one of them is you really can make a difference. You can do stuff. You can be intentional. You can take interventions and put them in your building that will really work on affective engagement, this ethereal thing called affective. It matters more for some students than for others. For instance, if I have a third grade youngster, and this third grade youngster has a chess set at home and wants to start a chess club at school, I'm not worried that that student's not going to be engaged. If I have a fifth grade student whose mother is the room mother and provides all the cupcakes, if you're allowed to do that at your school, I'm not worried about that student's engagement. You know why? Because I know that parent values school, and therefore I know that that child is going to have that sense of, from the family, that sense of school is important.